In my last video, I introduced you to part 1 of Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier with the paired Preludes and Fugues in C major and C minor. In this video, we begin our long, slow climb up the chromatic scale, alternating between major and minor modalities, thus the Preludes and Fugues in C-sharp major and minor today. I've already remarked on the great variety to be found in this monumental collection, and in this offering you'll certainly get a sense of Bach's aesthetic range. The paired set in C-sharp minor is so different from the C-sharp major pair that I'm going to treat them individually. Before I present the C-sharp major movements, I want to return to the matter of the golden section temporal division, which I mentioned in the first video in this series. In the history of Western music, there have been many composers who have sought to mold their music to such proportions, with Bach perhaps preeminent among them. But the composer who, in my estimation, best achieved the most profound effect the use of those proportions lends itself to is Béla Bartók in the first movement of his music for strings, percussion, and celeste, a composition I may have to take a look at in the near future. His opening movement is a colossal, densely chromatic fugue whose climax is reached at measure 55 of an 89 measure movement. 55 and 89 are two members of the Fibonacci series, the ratios between whose adjacent integers as one moves up the series approximates the golden section increasingly. Bartók used the numbers of the series as a guide to placing the beginning of significant musical events until that stupendous climax positioned a tritone away from the starting point. Everything in the first 62% of that fugue contributes to a steady crescendo. The descent from that climax, which occupies the remainder of the movement, is a steady retreat from all that mounting intensity, a decrescendo to the end. In the four movements you'll be hearing in this video, something like that is true of them all. I've called attention to the golden moment in each case, in case you'd like to keep track of that. The C-sharp major prelude is a bright, breezy thing, exhibiting four distinct contrapuntal strategies, two of them exploiting the convention of two-part invertible counterpoint. Its regularly occurring middle entries lend a strong rondo-like flavor to the whole. This is just about the happiest sounding fugue you can ever hope to hear, and Ms. Nikolayeva's playing is as nimble as Bach's counterpoint. What you're about to hear couldn't be more different from what you've just heard. Think about the aesthetic distance between the C major and C minor preludes and fugues that opened this collection, and augment that distance by some very large number. Both of these C-sharp minor movements are masterpieces, and at 115 slow-moving measures, the fugue is one of the longest and most intensely developed of all Bach's fugues. If that brilliant C-sharp major pair left you feeling a little giddy, what you're about to hear may leave you limp with exhaustion, depending on how deeply you enter into it. The sorrowful-sounding prelude may remind you of some of Bach's Passion music. Ferried along by a gently rocking 6/4 Siciliano undercurrent, this music unfolds like twining vines on a trellis, reeling out two distinctive motives that I've identified as A and B. The tonic major ending of this wonderful music sets the stage for a monumental fugue. The fugue is in a style that in 1722 would have been considered antique already, much more like the ricercares of the previous century than the more up-to-date, cheerful polyphonic essay that we heard earlier. Bach indicates that this is a 5-voice fugue, although it does seem to me that at times there are 6 distinct voices in play. You'll see me struggle with that from time to time. There are 3 subjects, and the use of them shapes the overall movement. It must be said that subjects 2 and 3 are, in a sense, more like counter-subjects in that they receive no formal exposition, but that is true only in the context of an actual counter-subject established concurrently with the fugue's first answer, and developed in interesting ways in its own right. The first subject consists of only 5 long notes, with the ear-turning interval of a diminished fourth lying between the second and third of those notes. That will make it easy to hear, even in the most dense of contrapuntal thickets later on. The subject is adjusted from time to time during its entries. The exposition of that subject rises through the voices from bass to soprano 1, and then a substantial development of the subject completes the first large section of the movement in E major. The music returns forthwith to C-sharp minor for the introduction of the second subject, a long, winding line that rises decisively to its peak and then coasts gently downward. A third section then sets forth subject 3, a more fanfare-like figure. Once the main characters have been properly introduced, the struggle begins, with all 3 subjects pitted against each other in what seems a contest for dominance. The first to be eliminated is subject 2, which, after a final ineffectual thrust, retires from the stage, leaving subjects 1 and 3 to vie for the prize for the remainder of the movement. I really can't speak to the outcome except to say that Bach finds a way to end in the glow of the parallel major, leaving the listener with a sense of something amazing having been won.